Next up, here's part 2 of that conversation. You're going to love this. Thanks for joining us on The Rebuild.
Yes, it's very real. It's very raw. And I think what was interesting about this whole process, I'm going to take you back to when I found the folder. So I found the folder and I gave myself 2 months to sort of really decide if I wanted to do this, right? Because I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. Of course, there was always a portion of my jobs that involved written communication. And so I was not bad at it, but I would never have classified myself as a writer or an author. And so in that 2-month period, I found myself asking a lot of the same questions that I asked in various parts of my career. Like, who am I to think I could do this thing? And, I let a lot of other people dictate the way I worked. Oh, she's an execution machine. She gets things done, but she's not visible to the right execs. It's like, yeah, I'm not visible to the right execs because usually my stuff is clean. The execs only want to hear from you when your stuff's not clean. So, okay, cool. But in that 2-month period, I found myself asking similar questions like, oh, who am I to think I could write this book? And how crazy is this? And why? And what I'm so proud of is that as I heard myself repeating these questions, I could arrest it. And then the question changed. It wasn't why me, who am I? It was why not? And that change. So in what was the 2-month period, and yeah, I had a little bit like I was retired, right? I wanted to try to enjoy retirement for like a hot minute. And I didn't know what I was embarking on. Like I had never written a book, so I didn't know what the process was going to look like. But I quickly short-circuited that same talk track, like who am I to think and who are you to think, to why not me? Why not now? Why not a book? And I got to the place that said, that's right, so I'm going to do it. Yeah. And there were 2 other elements, though, that I thought were really important for me. With my boys, I spent a lot of time kind of reinforcing and drilling in what we call lovingly momtras. And, a lot of time I get the side eye and the eye roll and the head not a shake because I know they're tired of hearing these things, right? Like make good decisions today. People show you who they are. You have to believe them. But there were 2 that were really important to me. One is we finish what we start. And the other one is when you're going to take a risk in life, always bet on yourself. So this book was the perfect opportunity for me to walk the talk. And it also gives them a legacy. It is something of me that is out there. When I'm not here, mom's book is going to be floating around the ether somewhere. And I wanted to show them that I was going to bet on myself and I was going to take a risk and I was going to finish what I started.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I think that there's so many interesting components. First of all, I believe in betting on myself, period. When in doubt, and even when not in doubt.
Even when you have some doubt, yeah. Doubt, no doubt, all the times, yeah.
On me, because, I tell people, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the fastest, I'm not the sharpest, I might not be the brightest, but I will not be outworked. I will not be outworked. Nope. It's not going to happen. No. It's not going to happen. So it's so funny. Like so I'm a golfer and sometimes I'll show up to the golf course. This has happened for like years and years and years. I show up to the golf course and of course it's like some young 20-something-year-old kid who's like 6'3" and he hits the ball and he's going to drive it down the fairway. He's going to drive it down 300 yards. And he's standing next to me who has like a soft mom belly. I have a soft mom belly. I have sunscreen lathered
everywhere.
Like I'm protecting myself. I'm wearing high socks. I'm probably wearing like a support sneaker. And he's, they're giving me the look. And I'm like, listen, we'll see. Because the thing is, you might have the strength and you definitely have the strength. But I won't be outworked. I will not. Yeah. I will not. It's just not going to happen. No. And also, I think it's a great example to set for our children.
Oh, it is. And I do think that there's something magical that happens in midlife, right? Where we start to unwind and unlearn some of these stories, things that were hardwired into us, or stories that we let other people write and, kind of define us. And there's a lot of reasons why midlife feels like the time to shed a lot of that stuff, right? A, I think because we're tired. B, because we know ourselves. Like as much conviction as you have in that, I and every woman has conviction about herself in some way that is unflappable. It is immovable. It is divine, and it is certain. And so I think we get to this place where we're now finally tapping into that and not shying away from it, not apologizing for it, not asking for permission about it, not like trying to soften it and play small and be tiny and shrink and all these things. We sort of embrace it. And then layering on top of that, we kind of have the hormones that have, our hormones do a lot of jobs, right? They have a lot of really important jobs. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I do know that these hormones, they keep our vibe nurturing. They keep our vibe, like I'm hugging, like they keep our vibe just very nurturing and soft and palatable, because that's part of the job that they're doing, right? And when those leave the building, in addition to us being exhausted of the years of living like we've been living and having no F's left to give, it's like, of course we're going to show up this way. And so you have golf, I'll tell you what I just did. So 6 weeks ago, I decided I was going to learn how to play the drums.
Yes.
So I signed up for drum lessons.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's what I'm doing. And do you know the best part about my drum lessons is I do them on Mondays at 12 o'clock. Do you know how glorious it is? Because I still do some consulting on the side. I still write. How glorious is it to be able to, on a Monday afternoon, go, yep, I'm leaving now. I'm going to go to drum lessons at 12 o'clock.
I love that. So badass. I love it.
One of the other things, though, which was this was another kind of retirement moment for me, was I love having coffee in bed. I don't know what it is, but I love my coffee time in the morning, and I love to do it in bed. And for all the decades that I worked, I never, ever once thought about doing that during the work week. How could I ever think that I had the audacity to wake up and start my day in bed with a coffee? So I would save it for the weekends.
Yeah.
So then when I retired, and I did start consulting, and I have, some part-time clients, but when I retired, the most glorious thing I did was have coffee in bed every morning. And then I thought to myself, why the hell didn't I do this when I was working? Do you mean to tell me that there was nothing that was going on in my work should have prevented me from taking 30 minutes? Yeah. This wasn't a 2-hour situation. It was a 30-minute situation to start my day with coffee in bed. Why didn't I do that?
We put these things on the back burner. We do. And the wild thing is sometimes they're the simplest things.
They're like coffee in bed, 30 minutes. There was nothing at work that would have burned to the ground,
right?
Whether or not I was at my desk at 6 or 6:30, right?
Yeah.
But yet it never even occurred to me to do it during the week.
Right. But I mean, I'm sure there's so much wisdom that you've gained and so much awareness of yourself that you've gained in more recent years. It sounds like what I really want to hear, and I think all the girls want to hear about also, is this Australian man. Like, so I find that I'll preface it with this. I guess theoretically, there's no one domain of our life that's harder than another domain, but it feels like love and relationship is the hardest. Yeah. It feels like women and people are rebuilding careers, they're rebuilding their homes, they're rebuilding family lives, they're rebuilding friendships, but that relationship component seems to be the one that stumps so many people.
It does. I think you're right.
Tell us a little bit about how did you jump back in? How did you,
Yes. So I do want to talk about, because I do think that the relationship piece, and I, in addition to writing the book, I write a blog, and one of the blogs I have coming up is just, there's a few different blogs about relationships and how, it is very easy to become settled and and not often fully satisfied in a relationship because it's safe. It's known, it's comfortable, and you can kind of it's like that old pair of slippers, right? Where the ratty, they barely, are hanging together, but you can't part with them because they're just comfy. But so for me, how it worked was if I roll the clock back about 10 years, I was in my mid 40s, and that was the decade and the period of time where I went through the most amount of change. I and my kid's dad decided to divorce. It was no like big dramatic situation. It was very rational and reasonable. Yeah, very rational and reasonable, but that was a change. And, I had white knuckled this concept of keeping my family intact for my boys at the expense of a happy Angela. So I decided I couldn't do that anymore because I couldn't model it for them.
Right.
So that was changing. Importantly. Totally. Then I took a massive career leap. I left a company that was very financially lucrative and a job that was very stable and settled to go to a pre-IPO startup. So super risky. I was adjusting to life as a single mom. I was trying desperately to keep my kids, to maintain some semblance of normalcy for my boys. And all the while, the backdrop to this was I didn't know it at the time, but I was 2 years away from menopause. So my hormones were just off the chain. So I know that there were times where I showed up really, really badly for my kids because they saw probably the worst in that. And so in my book and in my blog, I write a lot of apologies to my boys because I recognize that now. But in the middle of all this, I met a man, okay? And this man lives in Australia. I live in California.
Yeah.
So we're like talking.
Okay, wait, so how'd you meet though?
We met through work. We were just, friendly at work. And then he was divorced. I divorced. About 8 months later, we were like, you're kind of cool and I kind of like you. And so we kind of started to develop what I would say was more of a relationship. And unlike any aspect of my life, we got into this and he said to me, I just don't know how this is going to work. And I said this, I don't think we have to have all the answers. Let's just see where this goes. That phrase was never how I lived any part of my life, number one. Number two, I threw away this proverbial rule book about what I thought relationships needed to look like. Who in their right mind would design a perfect relationship with somebody who lived on a different continent?
This is a big deal.
This is a big deal.
Yeah,
but I said, in this moment of all this transition, maybe it was because my hormones were leaving and I lost my mind for a second, but I said, we don't need to have all the answers. Let's just see where it goes. So I totally ditched the rule book. I totally ditched anything I thought my life needed to look like in a relationship. And I dove in and it's been amazing. It's chaotic. It's stressful. There's a lot of FaceTimes and flights and you should see our travel calendar and the schedules and who's going to be where and when and how. But it's in a lot of ways the type of relationship that I never would have dreamed could be possible for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So the very long answer to your very succinct question is I threw the rule book out the window and I gave myself, because I backed myself enough to say, why don't we just see where this goes? And I released this need to have all the answers to every possible scenario.
Yeah.
And it opened up the possibility. It's so freeing. It's so freeing. Man. And there are times where I wish I would have done that a little sooner in my life. But I do think that I probably needed to experience everything that I did in the order that I did, at the depth or shallowness that I did to get to this place. But if somebody were to have told me 15 years ago, hey, just be on the lookout, because one of these days you're going to get to a point where you're going to care a lot less about what people think. You're going to throw every rule book out the window. You're going to leap before you have a plan, and it's going to be okay. I would have loved to have heard those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And for relationship and also for my daughter, for your kids.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to have this figured out. You're safe. You're safe. Mama's going to take care of you. You're safe.
You never have to worry about that.
Yeah, but you don't have to have everything figured out.
Because it's exhausting, and I'm I come from a long line of warriors, Italian women, long line. We are gold medal warriors.
Got it.
And I like a good plan. And also I tend to be sort of a worst case scenario kind of gal. I sort of like to marinate in that like worst case scenario. And then I kind of, okay, like if that's what's going to happen, then I can kind of build myself out of it. And I think a lot of that came most probably from a feeling like I wasn't enough, a feeling like I was behind, a feeling like, you know, I had to be everything to all people at all times. I was the backbone of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't feel those things anymore.
That's so amazing.
Yeah,
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Is there something about your partner? No, there is something. I know this, that there is something. What is the thing about your partner that this many years later just takes your breath away?
He is so driven, and at the same time, he's so self-aware. Like, I love a dude who is driven and purposeful, but also is the first to raise his hand and go, man, I messed that up, didn't I? I really stuffed that up.
That part.
It is so attractive to me.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it is so attractive. And I think the other thing about him that is really remarkable is it'll surface in this story. So about 8 months ago, I was going through kind of wave 3 of menopause, a whole new set of situations. And one of them was my libido. Like, I noticed a big decline in my libido. And I was trying to talk to him about it. And I'm like, I don't really know what's happening. And he's like, is it us? And I'm like, no, it's not us. So fast forward a little bit, we like to read books together. So I was reading this book called All Fours by Miranda July. It's a little smutty. It's a fictional book, but it was good. But in this book is a chart, and it has estrogen and progesterone for men and women plotted by age. And you can see on this chart what happens to women and why it happens, because everything that we have falls off a cliff. And men, they're like taking this cute little slow little walk down this rolling hill while they're looking at the scenery.
Yes.
So my man says, I'm reading this book. He's like, oh, I'll pick up the book. I'll read it. And I'm like, great. So we're reading it together. He goes to London on a business trip. He gets off the plane. He's still on the plane. He lands. He calls me from the plane. He says, did you get to the chart? I said, well, I'm past the chart. He said, babe, I am so sorry. I said, what are you sorry about? He's like, I'm sorry that I was hounding you. I'm sorry that I didn't know what was happening. And like, I got you. We'll work this out.
Sweet. Oh my goodness.
So I love that about him, you know? And you know, he's willing to dig in with me where I need him to. Sometimes he's a little too quick with solutions. I don't always want a good solution. Sometimes I just want you to get in the mud with me. But he's super self-aware. And I find that trait to be wildly attractive.
Yeah. I do as well. I really love the fact that he can admit, oh gosh, like I didn't get that right, or maybe I made a mistake, or let me rethink that. And also, I mean, like we know there's studies of the people of high intelligence are the people who do that. Like we know.
But it's so funny. Like I look at my dad as a complete opposite of that. He'll never admit when he's wrong because there's too much pride and ego in that. And I don't find that attractive. I find myself, whether it's a trait in men or women, there are certain things that I repel against. I don't like hypocrites.
That is one of them. Yeah.
I don't like victims, and I don't like people who can't own their stuff. It's so like, ooh, I don't want to physically, like I want to push them away, you know?
Yeah, it is repelling to me. It is actually repelling to me. Yeah. And also I feel like I can't learn, and I really can't learn from someone who's not willing to look at something and say, oh, there's a better way, or maybe I did this wrong.
Yeah.
I should have tried something different. Yeah,
no. So I find it really attractive. And you know, our life is super complicated. It's, you know, we're not together in the same place all the time, which in some ways is probably good for our relationship. And it also has forced us to work a lot on communication. We work a lot on communication, and we put systems in place. We have, for those of us in the tech world, and if you have a technical bent, you're familiar with terms like retros. We do a retro every week where we sit down, we carve out an hour, and we talk about how did the week go?
Nice.
What went well for us? Where did we feel supported? Where didn't we? What felt off? And then what do we want to stop, and continue? Like it feels very work-like, but it takes work. And it's almost like when you're not physically together, again, I never would have designed this. I never would have thought it'd be possible, but we've built an amazing relationship over a decade that is strong and solid, and it is a true partnership. There's give and take, there's negotiation, there's perpetual, constant learning and growing as individuals and together. You're not with somebody all the time. It kind of makes it a little bit fun too when you do come together, if you know what I mean. So it works. It works.
Okay, so I have this just about final question for you. Since you're speaking about this, so process-oriented, goal-driven, right?
Yes.
What actual tangible process or practice would you advise someone who is rebuilding, who's maybe ended a long-term relationship, whether it's been recently or they've been out of a relationship for a really long time? Like what would you recommend? Like, what do you recommend for them to really change their narrative, really, and make a shift?
Yeah. It's a really, really insightful question. I think there's two elements of this that I'll answer. Number one, I think that in general, we have to be really comfortable with asking for what we need and saying what we need. And how I started doing that, because I was really one of those gals who would shy away from that, because I was so always the steady one, the unflappable one, the one that got things done. So how could I assert a need? How could I say I'm tired or I need a break? That to me meant I was weak or lazy or something. But the act of saying what you need or what you want, even if it's out loud, especially out loud, but even if it's to yourself in an empty room, that act of saying what you want, what you need out loud changes your thought pattern. Again, I'm not a doctor, but there is chemistry, there's biology that happens when you say something out loud. It interrupts a pattern of thought. And when you interrupt a pattern of thought, that changes your actions. So number one, whether it's I need a nap, I need a break, whatever, I'm feeling anxious, I'm frustrated, say the thing out loud, even if it's in an empty room to yourself, because that will change your brain. That's number one. Number two, in the book, at the end of the book, I have this manifesto, and it's it's a set of exercises, but there's two elements of this exercise that I think are really powerful. Number one, give yourself some time, space, half an hour, whatever. Write down two things. Write down one thing you want to let go of, something, a habit, a pattern, a thought, a behavior that you are done carrying, and then write down something that you want to claim, reclaim, begin, and write it down on a piece of paper. That becomes a personal contract for you. So when you feel unsteady or unsure, go back to your contract. And the act of writing it down becomes a commitment that you're making to yourself. And so again, this is, in my view, midlife is not about blowing up your whole life. You can, and good luck if you want to. But it's not about blowing up your whole life. It's about naming a belief, a habit, an expectation, something that you want to let go of, something that you want to claim. And often just being able to name that thing is alone the impetus to change everything.
Yeah. And that's what people who are watching this podcast or listening to this podcast want to do. That's what they want to do. Change. They want to make a change. They want to make a change. Well, everyone, you heard about it here first. You heard about making a change. You heard about the Real Girls Guide. Tell everyone where they can find you on social and everything else.
So my book is Real Girls Guide to Midlife. You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you love to buy books. I write a Substack, realgirlsguidetomidlife.com. I post, usually 2 or 3 articles a week across all kinds of subjects. They're fun, they're long, they're short, they're sassy, they're serious, they're, all the feels from those. And then on social, I do post to Instagram. I'm a little cringy because I'm not really comfortable on social, but you can find me at Real Girls Guide 55. And my reels are a little entertaining because they're so awkward. But yeah, you can find me there.
We love that. We love that. And we are going to definitely be sure to check that out. Listen, Rebuild family, go ahead and comment, subscribe, and like this podcast. But definitely share this podcast. Share it with someone you love. Share it with someone who is making a shift in their career. Share it with someone who's ready for love and ready to try something new and have the relationship of their dreams. And it's going to be juicy and sexy and beautiful and inspiring, just like Angela's relationship. I can't thank you all for joining us, for being with us today. It was great. Thank you again, Angela.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye, Rebuild family.